Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We're going to start in just a moment. I want to give you a chance to get settled in. If you have candles that you'd like to have at the ready, or pour your Kiddush cup filled, or find your challah, or print out the PDF for the service, or get your various devices all set, we'll just take a moment to focus. Really preparing for Shabbat is about transition. And so that's what we're going to do for the next minute, is just give ourselves an opportunity to transition. A few reminders. I do this each and every week, but I think it's worth the while, even if you're all now experts in Zoom etiquette. For those who may have been off for a little bit, I'll remind you that if you'd like, you can certainly travel with your device wherever you go. You will be muted for most of our time together, because, as I keep saying, even the speed of light is not fast enough for us to sing together in unison. We'll have a few moments where we unmute ourselves at the prayers for healing and at Kaddish. But I will invite you to participate, to sing and to read together, even though we're muted. And I take some comfort in seeing all of you with your lips moving and reading along. So please, I do encourage you. Tonight I'm solo. The cantor has Shabbat off. Miriam Daly has Shabbat off. It's just all of you and me taking our journey together. And I apologize ahead of time. I know I won't bring what the cantor usually brings, but you'll make up for that. So please do sing along, sing loudly, read along. If you want to journey with us, that's fine. I'll just remind you that if perhaps you want a little bit of privacy, you can hit stop video along the black command bar. And that way we won't see everything that you are up to, but you will still see us and hear us. Even though you are muted, you can hear everything that I'm doing. And when you're ready to settle in, you can hit start video. You do not need to log off of Zoom just because you're getting your meal ready or doing something else. Okay, so just a reminder on that. Also, I encourage kibitzing. Whether it's kibitzing on the landing, which you can sign up for each week to join me physically outside of BHS from 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock, or kibitzing by chatting. There is a chat option. You can find it under the more, the three dots that say more, and I'll send a Shabbat Shalom out right now. You can send it to the whole group, or you can pull down where it says everyone, and you can pick the particular person that you want. So we're going to get started. And again, welcome all across the electronic ether. I will, at the end of services tonight, as I do each and every week, I'll make an opportunity for us to chit-chat live. I'll turn the screen share off. I'll turn the muting off, and we'll have half an hour where if we wish, we can catch up with one another. So let me invite you again, get yourself positioned in a place where you're comfortable as we join together in welcoming Shabbat. Ya Elai, 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 Ya Elai, Elai, Ya Elai, 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 Ya 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 la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la la. I want to share just a few short words before we kindle Sabbath lights together. It's not only Shabbat on this Shabbat, it is also, as happens from time to time, it is Rosh Chodesh. It's Rosh Chodesh Adar. It is the first sliver, the tiniest sliver, the first day, the first evening, really, of the new month. of the month of Adar. Adar is the 12th and final month of the Hebrew calendar. Some years, in leap years, we double Adar, and we have 2 months of Adar, a 12th and a 13th month, which allows us to push holidays forward so we keep them in their right seasons. But this year, just a regular Adar. And what that means, of course, is, as we say in Hebrew, Misha nichnas Adar marbe besimcha. As the month of Adar arrives, joyfulness can increase. And that's because Adar is the month of Purim. We celebrate Purim. It'll be coming up quite shortly in the middle of the month. And when Purim arrives, we're only a month away from Passover, which means spring is not that far away. So I'll encourage you. There are many good bodings taking place. The new month, which signals having passed Tu B'Shvat, we are now really counting down to the arrival of spring. We'll spring forward with our clocks in about 2 weeks, maybe a little bit more than that, that first Saturday night of March, and get some more daylight, the sun hopefully longer and warmer, and then we will be preparing our homes, even if it's in not typical fashion, for our Seders this year. And hopefully the warmth of spring and the opportunity for vaccinations and all of the health that we are praying arrives with this spring season. So just something to think about as we celebrate Shabbat. We are also celebrating the last month of the year. For me, it's particularly in mind because this journey through this pandemic really began for me thinking of the Hebrew calendar a year ago with Purim and Adar. And so here we enter into a year's time as we move forward. So let me invite you again. I do not know why this is up. Hang on. Hopefully everyone still has their screen. There we go. If you have candles at the ready, we engage in our final labor, our final creative action of the work week, the kindling of flame by which we transform the world around us. But instead of making transformational flame, the Shabbos candles are a symbol of the end of our creative activities for the week. So we light candle 1 and candle 2. Last week, we read Zachor et Yom HaShabbat in Parshat Yitro and Exodus. We're reminded also that in Deuteronomy, the same Parsha as the Shema and the Ve'ahavta and Ve'etchanan, we're told Shamor et Yom HaShabbat, observe Sabbath, keep and remember, a single command. And so 2 candles at least. Many families do more than 2, 1 for each person sometimes. So let me invite you to join with me. 1, 2, 3. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. And we'll turn ahead as we join together in our English reading to welcome Shabbat. There are days when we seek things for ourselves and measure failure by what we do not gain. On Shabbat, we seek not to acquire, but to share. And there are days when we exploit nature as if it were a horn of plenty that can never be exhausted. On Shabbat, we stand and wonder before the mystery of creation. There are days when we act as if we cared nothing for the rights of others. On Shabbat, we are reminded that justice is our duty and a better world our goal. So we embrace Shabbat, day of rest, day of wonder, day of peace. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena, l'Adonai, לכו נרננה, לכו נרננה, לכו נרננה לאדוני. נריע, נריע, לצור ישנו נקדמה פניו בתודה. נריע, נריע, לצור ישנו מזמירות נריע לו. לכו נרננה, לכו נרננה, לכו נרננה לאדוני. לכו נרננה, לכו נרננה, לכו נרננה לאדוני. שירו לאדוני, שירו שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני כל הארץ. שירו לאדוני, שירו שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני כל הארץ. שירו לאדוני ברכו שמו, בזרו מיום ליום ישועתו. שירו לאדוני ברכו שמו, בזרו מיום ליום ישועתו. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו. כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו רוממו. כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו רוממו. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו. Shabbat is more than sacred time, although sacred time it certainly is. At its finest, it is the embodiment of the sacred. We use words that the poets, the mystics, the Kabbalists of Tzfat gathered together from our prophetic tradition, and we envision Shabbat embodied, arriving, invited into our homes. As always, when we reach the last stanza of Lecha Dodi, I invite you, and I'll invite you then, to rise at that moment, turn toward the entryway, and bid Shabbat welcome and entry. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, yalalai, yalalai, yalalai pnei Shabbat, nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, yalalai, yalalai, yalalai pnei Shabbat, nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad, ishmianu el ha'miyuchad. Adonai echad u'shemo echad, l'shem u'l'tiferet v'l'tila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, yalalai, yalalai, yalalai b'nei Shabbat, nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, yalalai, yalalai, yalalai b'nei Shabbat, nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, ki mekor haberacha, merosh mikedem nesucha, sof maaseh b'machshavat tchila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, yalalai, yalalai, yalalai b'nei Shabbat, נקבלה לחדודי לקראת קלה, יללי, 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 בני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורי קומי אורי, 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 שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לחדותי לקראת קלה, יללי, 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 פני שבת נקבלה. לחדודי לקראת קלה, יללי, 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 פני שבת נקבלה. We rise, face the entryway to our home, invite Shabbat to enter. בואי בשלום, עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצולה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לחדודי לקראת קלה, יללי, 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 בני שבת נקבלה. יאללה, יאללה, לחדודי לקראת קלה, יללי, 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 בני שבת נקבלה. If you'd like to have a seat, I often forget here, you're certainly welcome to. We'll be rising again in a few moments, but if you'd like to have a seat here, take a moment, greet those who you're with Shabbat Shalom, send a chat, wish a Shabbat Shalom. We are at Psalm 92, the ancient psalm with which the Levites announced Shabbat in Jerusalem. Pilgrims would have heard as they arrived, Mizmor Shir Liyom HaShabbat. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. להגיד בבוקר חסדך, ואמונתך בלילות, עלי עשור ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון בכינור. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. כי שימחתני אדוני בפועלך, במעשה ידך רנן. מה גדלו מעשיך אדוני, מאוד עמקו מחשבותיך. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. I invite now, again, if you're able to rise in body and or spirit, we come to the preparation for our call to worship, the Reader's Kaddish, as we transition from Kabbalat Shabbat, the welcoming and greeting of Shabbat, to the main body of the service. So I invite, as you are able in body and spirit, if you wish to rise again. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ויעמד דברה חירותי, וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון, ובחיי כל בית ישראל, בגלה בגלה, ובזמן קריב יאמרו, אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך, לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה, יתברך, יתברך וישתבח, ויפר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה, שמי קודשה בריחו לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמה ויאמרו אמן. יאי לי 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 לי, ברכו את אדוני המבורך, ברוך אדוני המבורך, המבורך לעולם ועד, המבורך, המבורך לעולם ועד. If you'd like to have a seat, I invite you to do so. We join together in the English of the creation prayer. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars, creator of the tide of time and light. You guide the current of day into night. Its heaven spans to infinity. You set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, Ma'ariv Aravim. Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha Havta, Amcha Havta, Torah u'mitzvot, Hukim u'mishpatim, Otanu lemata, Otanu lemata, Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shachbenu v'kumenu nasiach b'chukecha v'nismach b'divrei toratecha u'mitvotecha le'olam va'ed ki hem chayenu v'yorech yameinu ובהם נגע יומם בלילה, נגע יומם בלילה, ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל, אוהב Amo Yisrael, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one. Blessed is God's glorious majesty forever and ever. We join together. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol meodecha ve'hayu הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להות על ידך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם emet. Together, standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, and that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way for us to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. Mi chamocha bailim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar bakodesh, norati lot osefele, norati lot osefele, malechutecha rauvanecha, בוקע הים לפני משה ומרים, זה אלי ענו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. In the evening, we add in this prayer, Hashkivenu, an acknowledgement that as we lay down in the evening, we ask for protection and comfort, release from the struggles and the strains and the anxieties of the day, a sense that perhaps our rest and our dreams will bring release and comfort, and that we hope we will awaken to a world that, like us, has had an opportunity for some restoration in the morning to come. A world with a little bit more peace, calmness, health, and blessing. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu לחיים, ושמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ולשלום מעתה ועד עולם. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו שומרי לחיים. ברוך אתה אדוני הפורש סוכת שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל, ועל ירושלים ועל כל עמו, ועל ירושלים שלום, ועל ירושלים ועל כל עמו, ועל ירושלים שלום. ברוך אתה אדוני הפורש סוכת שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל, שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל. The covenant of our people with the Creator is embodied in this single day, this day of rest, this day in which we acknowledge the greater creator and we step back from our own creative endeavors and remind ourselves that we are creatures. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש שבת וינפש ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. As you are able in body and or spirit, I invite you to arise. Imagine yourself entering into the heavenly throne room and putting forward to our Creator the wishes, needs, and desires of our people, acknowledgments of the generations before us, the gift of life, and an acknowledgement of the holiness in creation. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotainu v'Imoteinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, v'Konei Hakol, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישוע, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל HaKadosh. If it's your custom, I invite you to have a seat here if you have the custom to remain standing through the peace prayer, that's fine as well. Let's join together. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day, and may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai mikadesh haShabbat. Ever-present one, may we, your people Israel, be worthy in our deeds and our prayer, wherever we live, wherever we seek you. In this land, in Zion restored, in all lands, you are our God, whom alone we serve in reverence. And we add these words on this Rosh Chodesh: Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu yaleh v'yavo v'yizacher zichronenu v'zichron kol amcha Beit Yisrael lefanecha letova l'chein l'chesed u'lerachamim l'chayimu shalom b'yom rosh hachodesh hazeh, our God and God of all ages. Be mindful of your people Israel on this first day of the new month of Adar, and renew in us love and compassion, goodness, life, and peace. Zochreinu Adonai Eloheinu bo letovah. This day remember us for well-being, and we say Amen. Ufokteinu bo livracha. This day bless us with your nearness, and we say Amen. Boshienu bo lechayim. This day help us to a fuller life, and we say Amen. Baruch atah Adonai hamachazir shechinato l'tzion. Let's join together in the Hoda'ah, the prayer of thanksgiving. God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us, so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth, which day by day sustains us. For all these and more, we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shemcha u'lechana lehodot. And finally, the prayer for peace, which concludes the tefillah each and every day, thrice each day. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Ki ata hu melech Adon lechol shalom, ki ata hu melech Adon lechol shalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. V'tov b'necha levarech et amecha Yisrael b'chol et ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. tasim leolam, tasim leolam. Baruch atah Adonai hamevarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom. We praise you, Eternal One. You bless our people Israel and all peoples, we pray, with peace. We take these moments for own silent prayer and meditation. Ose shalom bimromav uyase shalom aleinu ve'al kol Israel ve'imeru amen. Ose shalom bimromav uyase shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Ose shalom bimromav uyase shalom aleinu ve'al kol Israel ve'imeru amen. So I'm going to stop the share for a little bit as I offer a few reflections on this week's Torah portion and what's happening in the world around us. And just give me 1 second. Sorry about that. There we go. Sorry. Shabbat Shalom. In the year of my birth, 1964, President Lyndon B. Johnson offered the vision of America as the Great Society, resembling Roosevelt's New Deal in scope and sweep. The Great Society was a set of domestic programs launched in 1964 and 1965, whose main goal was the elimination of poverty and racial injustice in the United States. While these programs had a significant impact on both poverty and discrimination in our nation, they nevertheless fell short, far short, of achieving the elimination of those injustices. Just a few years later, in 1968, just north of the US border, the Canadian Prime Minister, Pierre Trudeau, shared his vision of what he called the just society. Quote, "The just society will be one in which the rights of minorities will be safe from the whims of intolerant majorities. The just society will be one in which those regions and groups which have not fully shared in our country's affluence will be given a better opportunity. The just society will be one where such urban problems as housing and pollution will be attacked through the application of new knowledge and new techniques. The just society will be one in which our indigenous populations will be encouraged to assume the full rights of citizenship through policies which will give them both greater responsibility for their own future and more meaningful equality of opportunity. The just society will be a united country, united because all of its citizens will be actively involved in the development of a country where equality of opportunity is ensured and individuals are permitted to fulfill themselves in the fashion they judge best," unquote. This modern notion and terminology of a just society originates with the philosophers such as John Stuart Mills, who inquired what exactly constitutes a just society. Their thinking included varied and differing perspectives, such as allowing individuals to live their lives as long as they didn't infringe on the rights of others, as well as the notion that the resources of society should be distributed to all, including those most deserving first. In 1861, John Stuart Mill published an essay entitled and well known as Utilitarianism. In his essay, Mill advocated that latter view in which decision makers attend to the common good and all citizens work collectively to build communities and programs that would contribute to the good of others. Utilitarianism has gotten something of a bad name as a result of later schools of thought, such as those of Peter Singer. But at its essence, utilitarianism prescribes actions that maximize happiness and well-being for all. Jeremy Bentham, the founder of utilitarianism, described the term utility as, quote, that property in any object whereby it tends to produce benefit, advantage, pleasure, good or happiness, or to prevent the happening of mischief, pain, evil, or unhappiness to the parties whose interest is considered, unquote. The vision of a society guided and aiming for the common good, a just society, does not, of course, originate with modernity or philosophers. This week's parasha, Mishpatim, is in fact an example of one of the most ancient visions of such a society. Mishpatim, Exodus chapters 21, 22, 23, and 24, is perhaps one of the earliest statements of such a justly regulated society, and it follows immediately upon the iteration of the Ten Commandments at the end of last week's parsha. It's worth mentioning that while we Jews have a deep and ancient appreciation for the first top 10, shall we call them, commandments, it has long been our understanding that 10 commandments alone are insufficient for society to operate. The rabbinic notion of 613 commandments may be somewhat arbitrary, but it does reflect the belief and experience that society requires hundreds, not scores or a mere double handful of guidelines. In 118 verses, this week's parsha alone enumerates 53 commandments, 23 positive and 30 negative mitzvot. One can argue that a majority, or at least a plurality, of the mitzvot in this week's parsha fall into the category of mitzvah ben adam lechaveiro, those commandments regarding the mundane and quotidian behavior of one human being dealing with another human being, with very little religiosity evident or involved in many of these commandments. Moreover, the commentators point out it would be hard to find a more random list of commandments, which seemingly lack any overall thematic connection to one another. And yet, nevertheless, I believe what links these mitzvot together in their randomness is the notion of a shared and just society under the rule of one law for all. Parashat Mishpatim, as its Hebrew name indicates, presents mishpatim, rules or laws or ordinances that were to govern the ancient Israelite community. While still upon Mount Sinai, Moses presents the people with the laws that will govern their community once they enter the promised land and establish their society. Beginning with the retrograde institution of slavery, which was common and tolerated by all societies at that time, the Torah starts by declaring that slaves will go free after 7 years. And it clarifies the rights of slaves and their children in cases of marriage. The Torah portion goes on to tell us that deliberate murderers are to be put to death, and those who accidentally kill another person are provided with a haven where they can seek judgment. Kidnappers and those who curse their parents are to be put to death. If a person injures another in a quarrel, payment is to be made for both the cure and the loss of work time. If the injured party is a pregnant woman who then miscarries, the one responsible will pay damages agreed to by her husband. If, however, an injury is to another's body, the penalty appears to be reciprocal: life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, bruise for bruise. The rabbis will change that to monetary compensation. The Torah continues in detail with the categories of damages or torts. Dangerous farm animals, such as an ox that gores, are discussed in detail alongside the financial remedies. If a person digs a pit and neglects to cover it, he's responsible to pay for whatever falls or whoever falls into it and is harmed. Fines shall be paid for stealing, for allowing one's animals to graze on another's property, for damages related to starting a fire, for misappropriation of property, for animals that are borrowed and die of injuries, for seducing a virgin. Witchcraft is forbidden, as is having sex with an animal or offering sacrifices to other gods. The Israelites are instructed not once, but twice in this parsha not to wrong or oppress the stranger, the resident alien, because we were strangers in the land of Egypt. Widows and orphans must be treated with care, and the poor are to be given interest-free loans. If a person gives a garment as a guarantee for a loan, that garment must be returned by sunset, so the person will be safe from the chill of night. Spreading rumors, cursing leaders, joining with others to give false testimony, siding with others to do wrong as an excuse, showing favoritism to rich or poor in courts of law, making false charges, taking bribes are all forbidden. Returning an enemy's lost animal or caring for it if it is in distress is commanded of us. Eating the flesh of beasts killed by other animals is forbidden. We're told that the firstborn of the flock are to be offered as a thanksgiving sacrifice. Shabbat is to be observed each week. A sabbatical year in which the fields are allowed to rest from planting is practiced every seventh year. We're not to boil a baby goat in its mother's milk, whatever that may mean. 3 times a year on Passover, Shavuot, and Sukkot, the people are to make a pilgrimage and celebrate before God. And once again, the people are warned against practicing idolatry and worshiping other gods. Upon hearing all these laws, Moses gathers the people at the base of Mount Sinai, offers up sacrifices, and declares, all the things that God has commanded we will do. Afterwards, Moses and the leadership ascend Mount Sinai, and Moses goes to the top to receive the stone tablets of the 10 Commandments. These chapters, these 4 chapters of Mishpatim in the book of Exodus, this most ancient law code, is called by scholars the Covenant Code. And it reflects, if not a great society, then a society that aspired to justice and equity. A society that we recognize reflected in the philosophical ideals of the utilitarianism of Bentham and Mill. A just society, as was imagined in the vision of Pierre Trudeau, one in which the rights of minorities are to be safe from the whims of intolerant majorities, one in which those groups which have not fully shared in the country's affluence will be given better opportunities, one where existent problems are attacked through the application of new knowledge, one in which indigenous populations assume the full rights of citizenship and are given more meaningful equality of opportunity, one in which equality of opportunity is ensured and individuals are permitted to fulfill themselves in the fashion they judge best. Trudeau's closing lines echo American idealism about society. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, as we put it, might simply be called equality of opportunity. But opportunity is not outcome. No society can be just, much less great, if it guarantees only opportunity. No nation should be judged merely on its affirmations as distinct from its accomplishments. A just society, a great society, should not confuse vision with achievement, opportunity with outcome. A society that records and enshrines such laws but fails to safeguard and enforce those laws cannot be called a just society, much less a great society. A society that gives mere lip service to its ideals and legislation, but retreats from following through on or evaluating its follow through on those laws and ideals cannot claim to be a just and great society. At least not until the promise of liberty and justice for all really is for all and not just for some. Kain Yehi Ratzon, Shabbat Shalom. As always, I appreciate the opportunity to share my thoughts and my insights with the community. I invite your reactions and responses and critiques. Please send me an email after Shabbat, and I'll look forward to reading and dialoguing with you. Let me put our screen share back on, and we are going to turn to our prayers for healing. And let me invite you to unmute yourself if you'd like to share the name of a loved one at this time so that we can join together with those names in our mind. If you want to share that on the chat, that's also great. I invite you to do that. On this Shabbat evening, we call to mind and we pray for blessing for Martin Elbaum, Jerry Armine Klein, Avram Ben Moshe, Ann Salta Lamakia, Alex Salta Lamakia, Moshe Aaron Ben Gittel V'chaim, Bela Rivka Bat Esther V'Shmuel Pesach, Robert Mallon, Chaya Malka Bat Chaya, Gloria Sancho, Jenny St. George, Arthur Rose, Aksan Faruqi, Elia Ben Label V'Gita Henya, Chava Gittel Bat Freda, Yona Bat Ephraim, Yecheskel Miriam, Fega Devasha Bat Shendel, Florence Spire, Yona Chaya Bat Miriam, Davida, Ruth Bat Binyamin V'Chava, Steve Brown Inns, Yona Tevya Ben Label V'Getachenya, Renee Fishzone, Moshe Ben Leah, Nancy Lazar, Delroy Aline. We also call to mind these names.
Holly Robertson,
Hetty Migden, Ryan Martell, Tilda Mann,
Richard Rosenberg,
the Wrestler family, Jeffrey McKish, Jeffrey Jones, Ross McGee, Marla Malatak, Michelle Goldsmith, Salome Cape, Simone Cape, Kevin Gillespie. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing any of these. Jen Wilkov, Yardley Wang. Any other names that we should share? Rhonda Epstein, Frederick Strebeck, Madeline Pico, David Radin, Howard Orlin, Helen Perlstein, Charlotte Hillsberg, Julia Chicio. I'm not doing that right. I apologize, Jen. Philip Wren, Willow Wren, Jeff Chinelli, Jen Chinelli. Okay, and if you wish to share a name aloud, I certainly invite you to do so. Let's Marjorie
Norma
Wilcox.
Rosenberg, Robert
Thank you,
Rosenberg.
Karen.
Holly Robertson,
Thank you, Yigal. Let's join together in the singing. Mi sheberach avotenu mikor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us Help us find the courage
Courage.
to make our lives a blessing, and let
Let
us
us say,
Say
Amen. Yisheberach imotenu Mekor Abraham
Avotenu,
Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with
Refuah,
refuah shlema.
Renewal
The
body
renewal of
Spirit.
and let
Let
us
us say,
Amen.
Amen.
Cain Yehi Ratzon. May it be God's will. I invite you to mute again for a few minutes as we join together in the prayer for our country and for the state of Israel. O guardian of life and liberty, may our nation always merit your protection. Grant our leaders wisdom and forbearance, and may they govern with justice and compassion. Help us all to appreciate one another and to respect the many ways that we may serve you. May our homes be safe from affliction and strife, and our country sound in body and spirit. Amen. O Heavenly One, protector and redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel, which marks the dawning of hope for all who seek peace. Shield it beneath the wings of your love, spread over it the canopy of your peace. Send your light and truth to all who lead and advise, guiding them with your good counsel. Strengthen the hands of those who defend our holy land. Grant them deliverance and adorn them in a mantle of victory. Establish peace in the land and fullness of joy for all who dwell. Amen. I'm going to invite us all to rise in body and spirit as you're able for
What do
the
you think?
Alenu.
Good. He's 32. They gave up very little for him. A second round pick. He's a former MVP. He was on the Knicks a few years ago. He was a former superstar. He still got like this.
All right. I'm glad. Is this his first game?
Hang on a sec.
Is this his first game?
Second.
No idea. Let's see if we can figure out where that's coming from. עלינו לשבח לדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שהוא שם חלקנו לייחד את שמו, וגורלנו להמליך מלכותו. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, מלכנו וזולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום ושבת אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. Let me share these names before Kaddish, and then I will invite you to unmute yourself, share whatever names you wish aloud on the chat or live, and then we'll say Kaddish together. We call to mind on this Sabbath Eve the passing of Dorothy Beck, mother of Michael Beck, mother-in-law of Marcia, grandmother of Jessica and David, and the passing, the great uncle of Yavuz Gunnelson, the great uncle of Melis Bromberg. We also call to mind these yard sites, the passing of Alexander Berger, recalled by his parents, Andrew and Emily, his brother Evan, and our entire congregational community. Melvin Weiner, the father of Bruce Weiner. Arthur Mann, the father of Carol Mann. Max Laub, the grandfather of Scott Chesson. Hillel Black, the father of David Black. Sam Chaddock, the father of Susan Chaddock. Mel Sobel, the father of William Sobel. Mildred Kinstein Underwood, mother of Barbara Underwood. Matt Parto, the father of Felix Parto. Arthur Irwin Paley, the father-in-law of Sandra Paley Brandt. William Dull, the grandfather of Alexis Barat Cutler. Jane Taylor, the mother of Anne Landman. Harold Cantor, the father of Gail Cantor. Renee Zaritsky, the mother of Alyssa Zaritsky. Larry Gould, the father of Elizabeth Gould. Rosalind Goldstein, the grandmother of Rachel Strominger. Louis Silverman, the father of Dan Silverman. Sylvia L. Clausen, the grandmother of Andrew Wittenstein. Arnold Schenker, the father of Howard Schenker. Rose Weiss, the mother of Robert Weiss. Leon Katz, the father of Barbara Arkey. Harry Kallman, the father of Phyllis Starkman. Tom Hamill, the friend of Jill Braver. Mary Buckholtz, grandmother of Cheryl Buckholtz. If I've inadvertently mispronounced any of these names, if there are names you wish to share aloud or send to me over the chat, I invite you to unmute yourself at this time and to share those names. Any names you wish me to share, you can also type into the chat. I invite you to unmute as we join together in the recitation of Kaddish. Let's see what names we have here. Just a second, please. Yes, the passing of the artist Chick Corea. We call to mind Lenny Greenberg. Anyone else? I invite you, if you haven't risen, to rise now as we sanctify their names and their memories, as we sanctify God's name and for the coming of God's realm. We join together in Kaddish Yatom. Please do unmute, and we'll join together in the cacophony that will harmonize when it reaches the high throne. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shmei Rabbah v'yalman v'yirach elukei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayechon epon v'yeh d'chol beit Yisrael v'agalau v'zman kaviv v'imru Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah v'rach le'olam u'lamei almaya yitbarach v'bach v'yitar v'romam v'yitnaseh Adar v'italev v'yitalal shmei d'kudsha b'rit Leila min birchata v'shirata ushbechata v'nechemata miran ve'alma v'imru Amen. Yehei shalom rabba min shemaya chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Osei shalom v'mroma v'asei shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. May the source of peace on high cause peace to descend upon us, all Israel, our entire world, and we say, Amen. Oseh shalom mimromav, uyaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru imru amen. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imeru. Amen. I want to call upon the president of our congregation, Marcia Bellows. I'll invite everyone to have a seat. There's Marcia. Marcia, if you'll unmute, I'm going to add a spotlight. There you go.
Shabbat shalom, everyone. It's good to see you here tonight. A few announcements. Tomorrow morning, we have Havurah with Rabbi Lip at 9:30. And then we have some exciting things going on for the rest of the month. The Purim Spiel is February 25th, followed by the Purim Carnival, which is February 28th. I want to call attention to the program Wise Aging, which begins March 17th. You can register for that. Also, next week, we have the Israeli Movie Watch Group, and the movie is called The Wedding Plan, which I looked up, and it looks like a really fun, a fun comedy. It says, when her fiance bows out on the eve of her wedding, an Orthodox Jewish woman refuses to cancel the wedding, and she insists that God will supply her husband. And you can see this movie on Amazon, and then join the group on Friday. We also have a new book put out by the CCAR with Rabbi Hera, I believe is, I think she's an editor. Rabbi Person is an editor, and there will be a Zoom program on Tuesday, March 7th. Tuesday, March 2nd, where they will discuss this new book. And then finally, in June, we have a save the date for the BHS Spring Benefit, Sue's Swingin' Soiree, which is a celebration of the retirement of our beloved Executive Director, Sue Gold. And I think those are all the announcements. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Thank you. I'm actually going to do a quick screen share so that you can actually see Mishkan HaSeder is edited by Rabbi Hera Person, and it has been also put together by our former member and poet Jessica Greenbaum. So if you are looking for a new Seder, a new Haggadah to try out this year, this is the newest Haggadah from the CCAR. There's artwork by Toby Kahn, and you can go to the CCAR website to get a look. We get a 30% discount, so please do have a look. We're trying to support the purchase, and it goes to a good cause. Okay, let me stop the share there, and we'll go back to our prayer book. Let's see. Here we go. Screen share and share. There we go. Okay. Adon olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra li'ed nasa v'chepso kol azai melech shemo nikra azai melech shemo nikra v'yacharei kichlot hakol levado yimloch nora והוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה והוא יהיה בתפארה והוא אחד ואין שני להמשיל לו להכבירה בלי ראשית בלי תכלית ולא העוז והמשרה ולא העוז והמשרה והוא אלי וחי גואלי, בצור חבלי בצרה, והוא ניסי ומנוס לי, מנת כוסי ביום אקרא, מנת כוסי ביום אקרא, בידו אבקיד רוחי בעת אישן ויעירה, ואם רוחי גוויעתי, Adonai li velo ira. Adonai li velo ira. If you have your Kiddush cup at the ready, Vayered vayivoker yom hashishi, vayechulu hashamayim va'aretz v'chol tzvam, vayechol Elohim bayom hashvi melachto asher asa, vayishbot bayom hashvi mikol melachto asher asa, vayivarech Elohim et yom hashvi, vayikadesh oto, ki vo shabbat mikol melachto asher bara Elohim lasot. Sabri Chavirai, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho b'yahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lemase v'reishit, ki hu yom techila lamikraye kodesh, zecher letziat mitzrayim kivanu, v'acharta v'yotanu kidashta mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha b'yahava uvratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat. Amen. L'chaim. And if you have your challah at the ready, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. B'tei avon. I invite everyone to unmute. I'm going to stop the screen share, and I take off the spotlight, and there we all go.
There we
Give everyone
are.
a chance to chit chat. Shabbat shalom. Happy Rosh Chodesh Adar.
Hey,
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shabbat shalom.
How nice.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, Camille.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat
Shabbat shalom. See some of you tomorrow.
Bye-bye. Okay, I'm shutting it down, sweetie.
Okay.
Shabbat shalom, Pat.
Good Shabbos, everybody. Good Shabbos.